Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get canceled for this. Oh, hey YouTube, Joe Kiger here, and today I wanted to discuss my thoughts on Amazon's smash hit show, The Boys. This is a show about corrupt superheroes. It tells a dark story of people that have powers, and it is very unique and praised by many as well. At the time of recording this, it has an 8.7 out of 10 rating on IMDb, a 90% tomato score on Rotten Tomatoes, and an 86% audience score, I believe. So that is very, very high, all of those ratings, and I personally don't think the show deserves it at all. And I'll get into some reasons why in a second. But before I start dogging the show, I'll talk about some things I thought the show did very well. So let me go through a list of pros, and then I'll get to the cons. Now, before I get into my list of pros and cons, be warned, spoilers will be discussed for the show in seasons 1 and 2. I'll be discussing some things in detail, so if you haven't seen the show, be warned, spoilers are coming. Pro number 1. I thought the first 3 episodes of The Boys, season 1, were fantastic. They completely drew me into this world of superheroes who were doing messed up things and harming other people. Like Huey's girlfriend, my jaw dropped when I saw that scene. And then I loved how Huey got hooked in with Butcher, capturing Translucent, and he met Frenchie in Mother's Milk. I thought it did a great job of setting up this world. Pro number 2, I like that this show is not clean. It gave it a much more authentic feel when people are cussing, inappropriate things are discussed and even depicted. And while it does get a little gross at times, or a little dirty, I do like that it feels more real. Quick editor's note, I also like that we get to see some violence and gore as well. Pro number 3, I like that the superheroes are corrupt in this show. You don't see it very often in superhero movies or shows, but these people make mistakes a lot. And some of them are just evil. They have bad intentions, like Homelander or Stormfront. And I like that we get to see this, because we don't see it in a lot of superhero movies. Like, most of the time, the good balances with the evil. But in this show, it just feels like the bad guys are in charge, and it was really cool. Pro number 4, Homelander and Butcher. What else do I need to say? These guys were the anchor of the show. The characters that everyone loves and goes back to. They kept me in it. Even though I didn't like season 2 that much, I stayed for Butcher and Homelander. I don't think I can do that for season 3, but I do love these characters. Homelander is super interesting. I love how he was raised in a lab and he became just a cold, heartless, evil person that is so self-indulgent that he can't do anything for anyone but himself. And Butcher I thought was cool too. He did get on my nerves a little bit as season 2 went on, because he kind of became like the old tough guy that always had something cool to say, and he'd been through everything, and he wears leather, and he has a scar. But overall, I still liked Butcher a lot. I thought he was really likable, and I enjoyed his backstory with Rebecca. Pro number 5, I thought the acting in this show was pretty solid all around. The only character that I kind of felt like the acting choices she made were iffy was Annie. And this may have been due to the writing. I honestly had a problem with a lot of the writing and the characters in this show. But yeah, Annie didn't really do it for me, but everyone else I thought played their characters really, really well. And finally, pro number 6, I thought the technical elements of the show, like the visual effects, editing, and cinematography, were really good. They looked great, and I really have no complaints with them. So good job to the team that did all that. That is going to conclude my list of pros for the show. Now I'll get into the cons. Con number 1, and this is a big one that kind of encapsulates a lot of my problems with the show. Con number 1 is the writing. I do feel that a lot of these characters were underdeveloped, poorly written, and then things that happened in the show were kind of lazy, I thought, as time went on, especially with about the halfway mark in season 1 and then on to season 2, I felt like it became a lot more predictable and the writing just wasn't that great to me. I'll explain why with my next cons, but the writing, I didn't like it. Con number 2, Annie and Huey. These are 2 of the most boring characters I've ever watched on screen, and I didn't feel like they had chemistry together. I didn't like their relationship with each other. And the fact that these two are like the main characters that everyone's supposed to relate to and root for, I think is a really big problem. Huey started off okay. I rooted for him because his girlfriend died, and he was angry, and he was going through a lot of changes, and I kind of liked to watch that. Annie was going through a lot of changes at the same time too, and I liked her at the beginning too, but for some reason I just lost interest in them. It was like they became very boring. They became very one note. Annie had a poor arc, which is actually going to be my con 3. But yeah, Annie and Huey, I had a hard time watching them. I didn't like their scenes together. They became very boring, very one note as well. Con number 3, Annie's arc. I didn't like it. I felt like it was rushed and undeserved, and here's why I think so. She started off as this well-mannered, good-intentioned girl who wanted to join the superheroes she admired so much, and then she found out very, very quickly that the superheroes she praised did not deserve that praise, and it was almost as if she found out one thing, and then she suddenly just started spiraling like in a completely different direction. The thing that happened with the Deep happened, and while yes, that was a very bad experience, I'm sure, it was like her complete character just changed. And to me, it didn't feel very deserved, because I remember she was like shy, kind of hopeful and wide-eyed at the beginning, and then she became someone who would like blackmail A-Train, and she had a new level of confidence talking to the Supes like Homelander and Queen Maeve, and she became almost threatening to them. Like she would blackmail A-Train, like I said, or like give subtle threats to like Queen Maeve, talking about how she used to be good but she's not anymore. And to me, I did not like it. It didn't serve her character right in my eyes. Maybe you guys will disagree, but that's just how I feel about it. Con number 4. All of the supporting characters in the show I felt were pretty lacking, unfortunately. The boys themselves, like Mother's Milk, Frenchie, the Asian girl. I'm sorry, I'm going to call her the Asian girl because I do not remember her name. I don't know if they gave her one, but to me, her whole character was kind of forgettable. I mean, I don't really know what to say, because Frenchie and Mother's Milk, you like them, you root for them, but they're kind of surface level deep. And the only thing that they give for backstory for them is, well, Mother's Milk has a daughter and a wife, and Frenchie watched one of his friends OD. I think the Frenchie backstory was a little bit more compelling, a more interesting thing that we hadn't seen before. But Mother's Milk, it was like, yeah, everyone's got families. Kind of felt lazy to me, and I didn't really get invested in these characters a whole lot. Con number 5. I felt that the season 1 finale to this show was way too open-ended, like too many loose ends. And I know that they tried to end on a cliffhanger with Butcher, and I thought that was fine, because of course you gotta have something to get you interested in the next season. But I remember 2 aspects that I was like, what is going to happen here? Why didn't they try to wrap this up? And it was all stuff about Compound V, and I get that they were using that as a plot for season 2, but to me, I was left dissatisfied. And then the whole thing with the Deep, what was going to happen with him, I was like, he's just going insane. And I'll talk more about the Deep later. I've got more grievances with him. But yeah, I felt like too many loose ends in season 1 finale. Con number 6. The 7 in the show, I think, are very, very underwhelming. As a whole, I mean, A-Train, The Deep, Black Noir, I thought Translucent was kind of funny at the beginning, but of course he dies. Homelander is cool, and Queen Maeve I liked at the end of season 2, but overall I did not like these characters. A-Train was very flat to me. He's just another self-indulging person that got on my nerves. The Deep was so weird. And I get that they were going with that, and it was a new thing, which is kind of cool. But to me, it got to a point where it was like, he needs to be cut off from the show because he's distracting everything from the story. He's so weird, he needs to get off the screen. Queen Maeve, again, was kind of, she was like Kylo Ren to me, because it was like she had good and bad in her, but she didn't really use the good until the very end of season 2. And to me, I can't get behind characters like that. I like the idea of having good and bad in you, but if you're just a stagnant character until something big happens towards the end of something, I'm not a fan of that. Black Noir, of course, he can't even speak. so I can't speak on him. Homelander's cool, but the rest of them, especially when Stormfront came in season 2, ugh. And I know she was meant to be hated, but I hated her not because of that, but because they didn't give her any backstory. They're like, here's a super evil racist person that just likes to kill people for fun, and she trolls on Twitter. And then it was like, well, what's her backstory? Oh, she used to be a Nazi. Okay, like, that's not enough for me. Give me something more. We can't just say she was a Nazi back in World War II. I did not like Stormfront at all. Con number 7. I started to feel like a lot of the lines and the scenes that played out in the show became like over the top dramatic. One of the things I really loved about the show in the beginning was that it felt raw. It felt like real human beings having conversations and experiencing things in a supernatural world. It felt pretty authentic. But then as the show progressed, it started feeling like, oh, we need to give Butcher a big old speech here to lecture Huey or the boys, or we need to let Annie blackmail A-Train. I'm going to mention this more than twice now. But I could not stand that scene where it was Annie like in some kind of bathroom with A-Train. She had a lot of lines that just started feeling like, oh, we're gonna get him here. We're gonna be edgy and say some cuss words, and a lot of F-bombs came off as unnatural to me. I don't know if you guys felt the same way. Maybe it's just me. But yeah, a lot of lines started feeling forced and over the top. And again, that's the problem with the writing. It's not the actors or anything like that. So, con number 8. And stick with me for just a couple more. I'm going to do 10, and then we'll call it a day. But con number 8. To me, there was not enough action to keep things exciting. Anytime that we have like a big focus on the boys or the 7 characters being together, I was like, we need something to speed this up or spice this up. A lot of scenes dragged for me. Any scene between Annie and Huey, like I talked about, where they have a conversation, was flat to me. The boys themselves were not that interesting. So there was a lot of things in the show that I was like, they just felt like they dragged, it was slow, and I needed more action. Con number 9. There were a lot of characters and storylines in the show that I felt just were filler. It wasn't a part of the main story, but it somehow connected, and I was like, I'm not really interested in this. I actually have a list of things, so let me read them off to you for things that I felt were filler throughout the show. Characters like Mr. Edgar, Lamplighter, the girl that blows up heads that was revealed at the end of season 2 who wasn't developed at all, Ashley, who took over Vought, Deep and A-Train trying to get back into the 7 with that church. All of that was terrible to me. And then also the dude that could touch people and see their memories or read their minds. I don't remember exactly what his power was, but I was like, this is a cool character. And then they just kind of disposed him out of nowhere. So a lot of these characters felt disposable. Some of the story elements did not work for me. They didn't feel like they were part of the main story, and they served really no purpose. And finally, con number 10, cringy scenes. Like I said, with the over-the-top dramatic dialogue, some of these lines felt forced. Some of these scenes, some of these behaviors from characters felt very awkward to me, and I physically cringed watching some of these things. I'll say it again. Annie blackmails A-Train. If you need to go rewatch the scene, go do it. I found it incredibly physically painful to watch because Annie was trying to be super edgy, dropping F-bombs, acting like she doesn't care about her life. It was just very, very, very poor to me. Butcher has some scenes where he lectures Huey and it felt forced and weird, and I was kind of like, And then probably the number 1 cringiest scene for me, and this is just an example of Annie and Huey being cringy together, once again, when they sang Billy Joel in the car. I couldn't do it. I'm pretty sure I legitimately stopped the show and came back to it maybe a few minutes later, or I don't know. I could not listen to them sing. They did not have enough chemistry for me, that their performances didn't feel great or authentic in that moment. And yeah, there were a lot of moments where I cringed. And Stormfront too. Stormfront and Homelander. A lot of cringy stuff happening there. Oh, and then I'm just going to keep snowballing here. The scene where they're in the lab, and I'm not gonna explicitly state what was going on because I would probably get demonetized. But, not that I'm making money off this, but it was a scene where Mother's Milk is against the door, and then someone's elongated body part comes in and wraps around his neck. Cringe is all I can say. So yeah, that is my list of pros and cons for The Boys. Everyone, let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you hate this video and you hate me, let me know. If you thought this video was pretty interesting or you agreed with it, let me know. I'm curious to hear what people say about this show because I don't have that many people that have actually watched it. I have one friend who feels the same way as I do. It's kind of mediocre, but let me know what you all think, and I'll see you in the next video.